Welcome to another episode of the Straight Up Chicago Investor Podcast. I'm 𝗤𝘁𝗲𝗀, licensed agent with Second City Real Estate. With me, as always, is Mark 𝗤𝘃𝗲𝗀, founder and owner of 𝗤𝘵𝗱𝗰. Mark, how are we doing over there today?
We're doing good. We are still live. You guys are watching our posts or following our different pages. We are looking for people who are actually hiring a cultural and recruiting role for a company to help us in finding the right people for our company's culture. So if you know anybody on the HR side of the world, please refer them over. We actually, I'll say this, we hired a new CFO, kind of a right around CFO type role. And it came from a referral from the podcast. So I want to thank the people that keep referring people over when they hear our message about we're hiring. So I got another Jennifer Berger. She actually sent somebody over as well too, want to be in property management. So I appreciate all the listeners that follow us and refer people that are interested over. So that's great.
Man, I'm going to start saying I need deals on the north side here. All the brokers listening, help me, help you, or something like that.
We got to do this. We got to get something out of this, right, Tom?
There we go. So let me ask you this question then. I'm stealing your line. That's your line. When obviously culture is important, whether you have one employee or 1,000, when does it make sense to hire someone who is specifically focused on that role? Right now, you're investing money into someone whose sole job is the culture of the company. At what point does it become a formal position?
Well, I think as the company is younger, you have somebody that might wear, even the owner might wear the kind of HR hat, and then you might outsource it to, maybe a part-time company that does it. And then, right now we're sort of using a fractional type company, and we'll kind of build that into this new hire. But what we're not getting from having that person on board is the cultural piece and the recruiting piece. We have a recruiter, they do a lot of the follow-up and stuff like that, but they're not truly recruiting by definition. So it ends up, he's kind of growing to that role. And for us, we're at 56 or 57 people right now. So I think it's funny. It's really cool how it evolves, how you go. I mean, it was me 10, 12 years ago that did all that stuff. I wouldn't call myself HR. If anything, I would have had to fire myself at that point. But it was me wearing all those hats or trying to figure out who I could just hand off these little type errands for HR and so forth to make sure that we stay compliant.
All right. Good stuff. Some scaling tips here.
Yes.
We're branching out. So going back to our roots though, what's the housing provider tip of the week? Housing
provider tip of the week is around pest control. I see a lot of pro formas, and if you're buying a 2-flat or a 3-flat in the city of Chicago, you have to at least have the mindset that there could be potential pest control for your property. I think pest control ends up being very, if you have a bigger building, I think you have to have some sort of routine just because you never know at what point or what's growing as far as an issue goes. If you have a 2 or 3 flat, you might be able to get away with it for years. Maybe you have cats and that's keeping them away, or your neighbor's got a bunch of cats, or you have a really good block. Sometimes some alleys and some blocks are just horrible pest control for whatever reason. Maybe there's certain people that just have a certain type of garbage and it attracts the rats, or there's a bunch of, you notice that the rats will burrow down underneath the garages, and they set up shop, and then they'll start doing it across all the garages on that block. But my point here is make sure you have money allocated for pest control. Pest control to have will only cost, we're talking hundreds of dollars on an annual basis, but whether it be worked into your maintenance part of your pro forma or it be on a separate line item, just kind of keep in mind. And if you don't need it, which maybe like I said, we have some properties where we have lots of cats and you never have a pest issue ever. And that just ends up being money you can allocate towards something else or just more profit.
Yeah. Even when you're finishing up a rehab and you're going to rent the thing out, like we almost do like the CHA inspection where you just foam everything. Like anytime there's a little gap, you might not have anything in there now, but you never know what's going to come from the neighbor. Right. So just like all those small little gaps, like just pay the handyman to foam it up, call it a day and be done.
Yeah, definitely. And they say, this is always the fun fact of a mouse can fit through anything that's the size of like a nickel. So if you have a little hole that's a nickel size, a mouse can find its way. They have very little bones that they can work their way through.
Yeah. So fun stuff finding that, when your tenant's calling you at 10:30 at night, just pay for the foam.
Well, think about this from a customer service standpoint. There's people out there that some people just don't care. You might have a unit that you have a horrible mouse issue, but people just don't care. They live in the city their whole life. They're used to it. But then as soon as that person moves out, that next person's never lived in the city. They've never been, they're terrified, and they're going to be your worst nightmare as far as calling you 24/7 until you solve that problem, threatening to call the city and so forth. So it's kind of crazy how just the tolerance of certain people and your tenants, you might be getting away with it just for that reason. You might even have an issue, you just might not even know it yet.
Yeah. Cool. Let's bring in today's guest.
All right.
All right. So today's guest, and we apologize, we had to reschedule a few times, we're usually pretty good about this. So he's been patient with us, but been trying to get him on for a while. We both have bought properties from him and his company. But today's guest started in real estate in 2002. So we are over 20 years in the industry. Has worked in investments here in Chicago, Florida, Texas. He's been with Net Worth Realty since they opened their doors in 2008. So you're almost at the 15-year anniversary coming up here. He's
Correct.
currently the general manager of the Net Worth Realty of Chicago, specializing in wholesale residential real estate market. So everyone out there saying they can't find deals, here's the person to talk to. So without further ado, Joe Sevcik, welcome to the show. How are you doing today, Joe?
I'm doing great. I appreciate you guys having me on. It's tough to follow rodent talk, but I'll do my best.
Yeah, it's a real high bar for you, dude.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
but yeah, thank you for having me on.
We're excited to have you because, Net Worth Realty is a lot different than, the typical brokerages out there. So for someone who hasn't heard of you guys, give us the 2-minute high level. What is Net Worth Realty?
So Net Worth Realty is a nationwide brokerage. We specialize in distressed real estate, primarily residential real estate. So we go out and we beat the streets, and our biggest value add is leveraging an investor's time with prepackaged off-market deals. So we take a lot off an investor's plate and can be another feather in their cap when they're looking for their next project or their next rental.
Got it. So you say you guys beat the streets. Let's dive in here, right? Because I'm just very impressed with this model of, you guys are very proactive, very, very out there making things happen. So a typical day in the life, what are some of the things that you guys are doing to actually bring in leads to then hand over to investors and make everyone happy?
We're out in the field most of the time. When I say that, we're walking properties. So we don't make any money behind a computer. You can analyze a deal as much as you want, but until you get out there, press palms, meet with brokers, meet with individual sellers. We're walking, 50, 60, 100 properties a week. I think our metric right now is we're offering on 21 properties to purchase one. So again, it's a lot of legwork. There's no secret to our sauce, but it's daily inputs. We come in, we're in here for the morning, and my team is out scouting, going out and looking at properties and putting together rehabs and making offers and contracting houses.
So you guys were sort of, and this is how I explain you guys, and if I'm wrong, I apologize, but I explain you guys, you're like the first legitimate wholesaling brokerage that kind of came on the market in the sense of, so for context, I think it was 2.5 years ago, you couldn't just be a wholesaler off the street. You had to actually have a license, it'd be licensed with the state of Illinois.
Correct. And
you guys kind of, maybe I met you guys came on the scene right around that time, and you guys really legitimized, you were one of the first companies I saw that truly legitimized the way of doing business, of whether it be out there doing mailers or trying to source deals to be able to turn around and sell them to investors.
Although the timing is there, we've always been licensed. Since our inception, everybody's been a licensed agent because we're dealing with the public. We're buying, advertising, and I think even the law here in Illinois is, up to one wholesale deal a year or assignment a year, and then you have to be licensed. We're, nationwide, and we closed, over 2,500 properties last year. So we're doing a massive volume. But realistically, we're all licensed. We've been licensed before that law was passed.
Let me say this one more time out to everyone, the listeners. Like, you have to be licensed to be doing these wholesale deals. I think you get a grace period of one or assignment or one, like you said, but I'm still seeing a lot of people out there, and the fine for doing something, being an unlicensed, doing deals is like $25,000, and you could never get your license legitimately. It's like some crazy number. So it's not the risk versus reward to skip the 8-week class is not there, people. So just keep that in mind.
Correct. Yeah, it is a hefty fine. Illinois, supplements a lot of their income with fines. So yeah. They're out to get you, and realistically, title companies are on the lookout too, as well, to protect their interest and that such. Yep.
So Joe, we're going to dive into the actual process and how you guys help investors. Before getting there, everyone listening has handled some level of adversity in their life, right? But many folks haven't handled the just crazy amount of rejections, right? Offering on one to get 21, or offering on 21 to get one. I mean, how many doors you're knocking on to get to 21? Like, can you just talk us through some of that? And then how do you and your team keep that mindset to keep plowing ahead? Because so many people would shy away or quit or say, this ain't for me.
It's a grind. It's tough. Rejection sucks in any part of sales. But I can answer for myself personally. I just love real estate. Like I eat, drink, and breathe it. So it's full time for me. It always has been. Saturdays and Sundays aren't an issue for me to go walk a property. So that's the short answer for me. But again, you mentioned mindset. That's training. That's reading a lot of books on getting your head in the right spot, but also not taking it personally. I tell my team here all the time, they can't take away your birthday. If somebody rejects your offer, that's fine. Let's go on to the next one. Follow up on that one in 6 months when they when they're ready to come down to earth. But it's really those types of things to get your mind in the right framework. But any kind of sales. I mean, you guys aren't in an office setting, are you? But I get somebody stopping in my office, once a day, cold calling, and I don't envy them because of what they're selling. That's not for me. I don't. But so for me, as far as the mindset, it's easy for me. This is what I do, and this is what I know. I have an engineering background. I should be fairly calculated and an introvert, but I kind of got rid of that and thoroughly enjoy what I do.
That's great. So talk us through now. You guys lock up a deal under contract. What because you guys just don't blast it out and say, hey, look at this. Like, you guys put together rehab numbers. Like, you're looking at ARVs, you're putting together almost a packet, almost like a commercial broker putting an OM together. Talk us through, just for someone who hasn't dealt with you, that extra value add you put forth through investors so they can have more confidence in their purchase.
Well, as far as, when we have something available to our investors, we'll put together, like you said, a rehab budget, and that's really market specific. So, we've been operating a little over 4 years in this market here. I came from Houston. Pricing is totally different. The scope of work is totally different. So I visited with, 24, contractors. Give me, costs per unit costs and that kind of stuff. So we really, focused in on our market here to get, an average cost of what it is to rehab properties and what it takes to rehab properties. I never dealt with basements before, that type of thing. So that's kind of the rehab side. As far as putting together projected values, running comps, I do that all day long. And we're also a lender. We have a sister company, 212 Loans. We're also a lender. So I have to be conscious of our values there and not inflating a value just to get a deal, into investors' hand. And, we try to be conservative and put on a good number, take a lot of looks at what's active in the market right now. What's your competition when you come out of the ground, or, when you come to sale? What's going on in that neighborhood? Right now, in the market now, you look at actives, there's one active maybe, and it's overpriced with a non-motivated seller. If it's priced right, it's gone, within a matter of a few days. So always taking a look at the values in that respect, and always adjusting our numbers as far as rehab months.
I love the fact that you mentioned you came from a different market and things are so different. What were some of those nuances that you learned right off the bat coming to the Chicago market?
High cost to transfer properties, really, transfer taxes, dealing with the individual municipalities and villages and the challenges of pre-sale inspections, and, working with attorneys that sometimes want to throw a wrench in a deal because they're not getting paid. It's that type of thing. So those were like three of the major things that I ran into, able to figure out, and we still, work on it. But I'd say really it's coming from a city standpoint or a village standpoint of dealing with transferring property, whether it's monetary with taxes and or, pre-sale inspections.
I want to dive a little deeper in that too, because I think you have an awesome perspective that a lot of people from out of the area need to hear. What about the rehab numbers, or the type of construction or type of properties, or the pro forma? Like what is different that you put together here than you might not when you're
I mean, working in Florida and working in Texas, you're generally working with houses that are 30 to 40 years old. You know, here we're dealing with houses that can be upwards of 100 years old. So no matter what what you plan on doing, if you plan on flipping it, obviously you got to get everything up to code, or if you plan on renting it out, you don't want to just leave old stuff in there and then have a tenant call you, 4 months down the road because they got a leaky faucet or a busted pipe. So that's the first thing. Then the cost to do, rehabs is, labor costs in Texas are a lot lower. Permitting is, almost non-existent, to get rehab done. It also cuts down on your timelines too. If you're not waiting on permits, if you're not in permitting, waiting for approval for 4 months, you can start demo that day and start putting a roof on the next day.
Yeah. I want to go back to transfer to, we just wrote a blog on this too. It's on the site, but when you're in the city of Chicago, they are taking $5.25 for every $500 of the purchase price. And if you are the buyer, you're responsible for $3.75 for every $500, which is almost 1%. So if you're buying a property for $400K, take that time, or divide it by 500 and then multiply it by 3.75. And you start doing these bigger deals, it is a huge number. And for everyone who wants to go be a flipper, you then pay the seller on the sell side, then you pay that other $1.25. Like, the city makes a ton of money for allowing you to transact within their municipality. It's crazy. Yeah.
You have a lot, and even some of the the suburbs are even higher. You got areas like Oak Park. It's $10 per thousand, on the seller, born on the seller. Tremendous amount of money. That's a higher price point. You're talking $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 there. Transfer stands.
I have a document we put together. We got most of it from the IAR, Illinois Association of Realtors, but it breaks down all the different towns in the city. So we could plug it on the website that has all the breakdown of each city. People can plan for it at least.
Well, that's a good one. Alex, who does our notes, you got to follow up with us. Make sure we actually do that then. Mark, go ahead.
No, it's super expensive. So I'm going down a rabbit hole here, but all these costs is so important when you're on the either buy or sell side. Like, I remember when I first got into this, and you're running numbers, and you're like, cool, I'll buy it for 20, or I'll buy it for 100. I'll put 20 into it, and I'll sell it for 140, and I'll make 20. It's like no. Like there's so much in there, and to what you're saying, like there's so many costs in there that we didn't even get into in this conversation title, or a lot of honestly people don't recognize the fact that they have to use an attorney if on the buy side. They don't have to, but they end up doing it most of the time because someone eventually gives them the advice to do it. But the expenses, just to, you call them costs of doing business, but people, those are big numbers.
Yeah, absolutely. So Joe, talk us through, let's say you put something under contract, you go to investors, for whatever reason, you don't have a taker on it. Do you guys typically just, hey, we're out of contract, we lose the escrow, or will you guys take it down then as well?
No, we'll close on the property. Yeah, we have, we're a direct buyer with our sellers. Sure.
Got it. So regardless, like you are following through on that when you're face to face with the seller, you can confidently walk in there and say, yep, someone else ain't taking the assignment, we're good here.
Correct. That's
great. Yeah, it's the same way with we've had 𝗏𝗵𝗶𝗵𝗵 on the show where he doesn't have anyone, he'll take it down himself, flip it, rent it, whatever it might be. It's much easier doing business with that person too. Everything's much more transparent with the seller. It's just an easier, smoother transaction for everyone involved.
Well, part of it has to do, I mentioned that we look at a lot of properties there, but making sure it's a deal, when you buy it, and making sure our numbers check out, and it's, a lot of times we're buying the cheapest thing in the neighborhood. It's a deal, or at 1970s prices. So, we're conscious of that, and I oversee everything as far as deals going through our office here, and I don't just rubber stamp everything. I get out there and I walk the property and make sure that we're not missing anything on a rehab, and not missing or missing anything on the value, good or bad.
Yep. So you guys special in finding, distress in one way or another, whether it's physical distress or some, third party occurrence that has caused distress to the seller. What are some tips you can give to our investors listening that would like to also hunt in these same territories? Right? Like what are some, you don't have to give away the secret sauce, but what are some clues or some things where it's like, hey, like I would focus here?
Well, I mean, I'm not going to hold anything back as far as how to do it, because it's, you can open up any book and they'll tell you how to do it, but you got to get out there and do it. I would say, first off, I mean, if you're an investor, even if you're just getting started out, everybody in your sphere of influence should know what you're doing. That's anybody, at your 9 to 5 job, banker, church, whatever it is, they should know because they may know somebody that's looking to sell. And if you're an investor, they need to contact you. So definitely, that's the first place I start. Your sphere of influence should know exactly what you're up to. I would say, if you're more on the experience side or doing deals, better train your contractors to field. When somebody walks up to your project and says, "Hey, what are you guys doing here?" Train your contractor to ask them if they're selling their house. I buy houses on rehabs all the time. A neighbor comes over and sees it, or somebody's coming to check in on a house that they just inherited, and go, "Oh, there's an investor fixing it up there. Let me contact them." So definitely, that kind of goes along with your sphere of influence. But everybody should know what you're doing.
I love it. So simple, and it's one of those things that pays dividends either immediately or 3 years down the road, right? You don't know when it'll hit, but you got to put it out there, and at some point you will be rewarded for it.
Correct. And we, and some of our, direct marketing campaigns, fielded a call from a letter that hit 4 years ago. Some people hold on to stuff, so don't discount anything. Everything works. Some things work better, but you just got to be consistent.
Yep. What's the follow-up process like, right? Because a lot of this, you're not going to guess on the, oh yeah, that sounds good, here's my house. Like a lot of it's going to be third, fourth, eighth, whatever attempt. Yep. Talk through just how you stay on top of these folks. How do you drip on them without being annoying, like actually providing value and getting to a point where, hey, now it makes sense for us to actually do this deal together?
Well, I think you got to kind of back up a little bit. It's got to be the right deal. I'm not buying somebody's house that they're living in and things are functioning the way they should be. So you really, it comes down to having a property that really needs a cash offer. It's not going to, qualify for conventional financing or an FHA loan. So it's really getting in front of those motivated sellers there. So as far as, maybe they don't like my offer today, I follow up with them at the very minimum every 3 to 4 weeks. But also that comes with meeting with them and finding their pain points and what's their motivating factor. I'm looking to move in the summer. I'm moving out of state there. Okay, I get it. I'm still going to call you in the winter and the spring and still see if your plans are summer, and I'll pick up some things that we can find some common ground on and talk to. So I'm not annoying you, but at the end of the day, the follow-up is key, but you have to be following up on the right prospects.
I love it. Rapport. So you said a couple of times, expectations and rapport. So you're going to kind of give them an idea of when you're going to follow up with them. So it's not like, oh God, that guy just called me again. When's he going to stop? But the person saying, oh, that's right. It must be spring already. He's calling me again.
Yeah.
And then you said that, common ground. I mean, people want to do business with people that they like, even in that type of relationship. So I love how you guys do that.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's creating relationships. It is showing value, and like I said, finding somebody's pain point. What if they don't want to trash out the house? Okay, we'll buy it with everything in there. It's as simple as that. Or I got to get my sister on board to sell this house there. Okay, well, let's get her on the phone and find out. I'll talk to her.
Well, let me ask the question then, based on what we're talking about culture before. Like, do you hire for that? Do you train that, or do you do both with your? You guys are a pretty big company as well.
It's a challenge for sure. It's tough to find. I mean, I'd be lying if I said my first boss that hired me probably didn't see that in me. I came from an engineering background, so I was kind of an introvert. So, but he gave me a set of tasks to do, and I finally followed him, and did it. So, but I'm I've taught myself, to, reading a lot, or I should say listening to audiobooks a lot, and retraining my brain and finding, like I said, finding common ground with somebody there. But going back to your question there about the culture here, everything works with what we do and what we have laid out for our associates here to follow. Not every personality is the same, so I don't hire for that personality, because I can work with somebody that's willing to put in the time and do it, as we have it laid out. Now, your conversations might be different, based on your personality, but that doesn't matter. If you're consistent, it works. Some people could just get there faster. That's all.
Tom, I'm going to send you a test. I want to know if you're an introvert or extrovert. What do you think you are?
I'd probably label an extrovert. I don't know.
I've taken all these different tests online, and I am an introvert. Like I like, as much as I'm outgoing and I talk and do stuff like this, like it tires me at the end of the day. I think that's the difference. People can do it. It's a different level of energy you feel at the end of the day after you have to do it. I was surprised.
Yeah, the more I'm thinking about it, I'm definitely in the extrovert category. Like my senior year of college, the internet wasn't working and I didn't have a TV, and I just rolled with it. Just went into everyone else's rooms, whether they wanted me there or not, like in the house. Like I just needed to be around other people and not be by myself. Maybe I have bigger issues than this question.
Yeah.
It's bigger.
I might not have the right test for you.
Yeah. Sorry, you help me out. So Joe, let's sidetrack 1 second here. I want to hear a either funny or what's like the goofiest thing you've seen walking in some of these distressed homes. Do you have any cool old antiques? Anything cool there that we can just, focus on for 20 seconds.
We've closed on properties and we found money in walls, cash in walls.
You got to underwrite for that. If you do enough deals, there'll be that.
Well, edit that out. We didn't find any money there. There was nothing to find. But no, you walk into some, I wouldn't say funny. Sometimes they're sad, the situations that somebody was living in. But it's every day is different. That's for sure. Walking into these properties that, are abandoned or unlivable.
Yep. All right. And then similar question, give us like a very difficult deal you were able to get through the finish line, whether it be, cloudy title or, some of these deals, there's a stress. It's just, it could take 9 months to get through because you have this or that, or some dead person on the title. And
I'd say like in general, like I played marriage counselor a few times on deals, where a husband and wife are separated, but still on title or however it shakes out. And I have to be the conduit between those two and hear them both out and calm them down. And at the end of the day, get them to focus. Hey, the goal is to get rid of this asset. I'm here to help out and purchase it from you. You don't, I'll hear about his girlfriend. You can tell me about his girlfriend and all this stuff there, but, and playing that role. Also worked with, we did a deal in Chicago, South Side there. There was 15 heirs. We're looking to split like $32,000. So you can imagine the windfall that they were coming into, and they were scrapping over it like nobody's business. So it took a couple of trips to, people's houses there to get the contract ultimately signed by everybody there. But, that's just kind of the, what we do to get a deal done.
That's great. So let's talk about the last, year and a half, 2 years. The market's been insanely hot, regardless of what neighborhood you're playing in. What have you guys seen? Has that made your job easier or harder, right? It's probably easier on the back end to find an investor, but everyone you're going to and knocking on a door or talking to is, probably saying, oh, I so-and-so down the block got X for their property. And it was insanely overpriced. Like, has the job gotten easier or harder? Is it pretty much the same because you're on both ends of the transaction?
I would say the short answer, it's pretty much the same because we're still using the same method and techniques that we buy properties. We're just not at a certain percentage there what the market will bear. So, we had a quick adjustment in 2008, 2009 there of when price points dropped and real estate was toxic. That's when you had hedge funds coming in and stuff. So your buyers change a little bit, but like this market here, I would say it stays the same. It doesn't change our routine. We're still looking at fairly the same amount of properties to contract one. I would say it's safe to say you will lose some deals, out to somebody, just a neighbor, that got wind of the house. It wasn't an investor on Tuesday, but as an investor on Wednesday, hey, you're selling your house. Yeah, I'd like to buy it, so you do see some competition entering in that quite honestly won't be here in a couple of months. There's already the banter of reading the tea leaves of, oh, interest rates are up and, prices are going down. It's like 5% interest. It's pretty cheap money. It's just not going to get what you were wishing for last summer. But it really hasn't changed. Our routine and our strategy and our model that we run hasn't changed at all.
So it's kind of segue to what it's like to work with a company like you, as saying I'm the investor. What's an ideal client for you? How should newer investors present themselves that makes someone like you want to work with them? And just any sort of feedback around what it's like to do business and how our listeners can win doing business with a company like you.
I'll start if you're a new investor and I don't have to profess to be a cash buyer. If you're using a lender, let me know. Let me have a conversation with the lender so that they understand and make sure that they can perform and set you up for success rather than leave you at the closing table. So that's key. Be honest up front and be somebody that you want to work with. The other thing is feedback. I know the house needs work. We've got $85,000 going into it. Right. The feedback of, hey, it needs a lot of work doesn't help me work with you. Can I get some specifics? We just walked a rehab here and it's $100,000 rehab and you haven't put pen to paper once and you're saying no. So let's walk through the numbers. Where are we off here? Where's the disconnect? So that feedback and working, again, the buyers that we work with are ones that go out to the properties. They don't make money either behind their desk or a computer and analyzing a deal. So getting out and walking properties with investors and getting constructive criticism, feedback, why they like it, why they don't, is the best. I would say our ideal client, but it's ones we have more success with because there's a relationship there, and you're not going to hurt my feelings. I don't take this personally when a deal's not in an area that you like, but let me know that I don't want to operate in this area because it's 32 miles from my house and it'll take me an hour and a half to get there to check on my contractor. So just that communication, I think, is one of the biggest things. You don't have to tell me, you're 600 houses. That's fine. That's great. I'm going to learn from you then. That's my attitude.
I love it. Rapport again. And then also what you said, we've heard from multiple guests recently, is the whole, just don't try to come off as either someone you're not or someone more than you want to be in this relationship. So it's great if you have 600 houses, but let's do this deal together and let's see where it goes. Just not having to flash those 600 houses and just kind of being real and not, pompous is the right word.
Yeah, or a jerk. Don't be a
pompous
jerk.
or a jerk. So we've heard that from multiple different vendors. And I think the initial human reaction is like, oh yeah, I'm going to give you so much business and just help me get this, or you got to work with me because of blank. And I think being real will get you much further. You may get a couple people that doesn't impress and you might not get to work with because they might think you're going to waste your time, but there's different ways that you can demonstrate that you're not going to waste your time.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I want to go back to that rehab piece too. That's one of my favorite conversations actually, is if we can't do a property, just talking through like, hey, this is where you told me 100, I'm at 140. Right. And just talking, I actually enjoy those non-confrontational, just, hey, this is where I'm at.
Yeah.
Are we just high? We learn a lot from that. Joe, we walked that one property, Belmont, whatever, Troy, I think. Yeah. And we had this similar conversation of we ended up being $15K off from whoever bought it. And it was our dormer costs. We were cheaper on other things. We were higher there. You just get more market intel, right? Yeah. And then you start figuring out, okay, where are we compared to the market, whether we're right or wrong? Where are some areas where, it's going to be hard to compete here, or this is a sweet spot for us? It's free information for everybody.
Yeah. But, and again, that dialogue that we had at that property and that input we get from investors helps me go out and negotiate properties. I mean, if if I've never done a dormer in the city of Chicago or navigated some part of permitting or, fire code or something like that, and you arm me with that, that's something I can go in and talk with a seller or a broker that's bringing me a property and say, this is why we have to purchase at this price.
Yeah.
Never stop learning.
Joe, so give us an idea, like roughly, if you don't mind sharing, the Chicago division of Net Worth Realty, what was the volume last year? What are you on pace for this year? What does the future hold? Where are you guys headed? What are we going to start hearing about?
The future holds is this market, to me, has tremendous potential. We've been here for a little over 4 years, which is a relatively small amount of time, in my opinion, to learn the nuances and markets and submarkets, of the city for sure. Growth. I mean, we're in a city, population, I guess over 4 million people in the city, and you ever fly in here, you see miles and miles of homes that are 100 years old. Everything can have value add. We finish out attics, we finish out basements to value add, and we're still a relatively affordable market. As far as nationwide, FHA loans are very prevalent here. So this market to me has tremendous potential. For me as an office, is continuing growth, bringing on more associates there and, widening our reach.
Got it.
It's amazing. I talked to somebody the other day and they said, they're from Chicago. And they're like, yeah, I'm kind of looking at Indianapolis. And like, I'm like, what are you doing? There's so many different corners of the city and so many different opportunities. And as a local person, you have so much of a head start on anybody else because you can learn pretty quickly the intricacies of the different corners of the city. So it amazes me how people that.
And being local, you can network, a lot better and be more effective and get people out there looking for properties for you, whether it's other brokers, other wholesalers, bird dogs, mailman, whatever the case may be. That doesn't happen when you have an agent in Indianapolis sending you a listing and then you go, okay, let's offer on this, and you don't grow your business that way.
Yeah, and I get, man, some people might have their competitive advantage there. They grew up there, whatever. But like a lot of times I feel leaving your local area to somewhere else, it's an excuse because you didn't, I should look for 6 months, didn't find anything. I'm going to go look here now. That's the problem, right? It's not that I'm doing anything wrong or that I'm giving up. It's, it must be easier to do deals here. No, it's hard everywhere. They're all different nuances. Like at the end of the day, like you just got to figure it out.
Yeah. Buy it deep enough, you can make money in any market.
Absolutely. So Joe, what if someone is interested in joining Net Worth Realty? Like, what are you looking for? You're talking about growing. We have a lot of people who are getting into real estate who might be looking to do, wow, this sounds like a great opportunity. Lay it out. Like, what are some of the things that you'd be looking for in someone in your brokerage?
I really don't need real estate experience. I'll teach you, our model and how we evaluate houses and how we offer on properties and how we work with individuals looking to create wealth. So I can, it's one-on-one training. So I'm working with you day in and day out. I'm looking for people that, honest, have integrity, and aren't afraid to grind it out. And we talked about it earlier, not being afraid to be rejected, because this is going to be a lot of rejection, and whether it's in the form of an offer or, a buyer telling you to, don't send me over the deals in that area there. So not necessarily have to have thick skin, but it's, doesn't hurt.
Awesome. Mark, anything else?
No, I just I love the way you guys do business. I love how you guys carry yourselves, and you guys are very down to earth. I've personally bought, I think, 3 deals from you guys over the years, and I got a lot of respect for just how you guys do that side of the business, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and that's something I take a lot of pride in, and really, making sure we treat our buyers right. If the deal's not right, I can give you an example. We had a buyer of ours who got ill like 2 days before closing. Am I going to sue him to close the house? No, I understand things happen, and that, life happens sometimes.
that side of the business, we'll just group it as wholesaling type. That corner of it is got a bad name to it, and it gets a bad rep a lot of times. And there's a lot of people that make the really good ones like yourself look bad.
Sure.
And you guys just have such a professionalism too, and that's pretty cool. So I can't say enough good things about you guys.
No, I appreciate that. Yeah, we work hard to instill that in our associates here, and it starts from the top.
All right, you ready to wrap, Tom?
Let's wrap.
All right, let's do it. First question, Joe. What's your competitive advantage? How have you been able to do this and look so professional, and everything I just said about you way better than everybody else?
Numbers game, just run and gun. It's 24/7 with me because I love what I'm doing. I'm not selling water softeners and knocking on doors and a product I don't believe in. You know, the what we do can change people's, financial trajectory, to part-time investor and building a rental pool. So I have a passion for it. It's not work for me. It is work, but I don't think of it as work. I don't have a Monday morning, Sunday. I don't think about Monday morning. It's just another day.
Yep. Also, the next LLC I started, it's going to be called Run and Gun. That's great. Just sets the right tone for what type of business it is. All right, Joe, what is one piece of advice you would tell someone that is yet to buy their first property here in the Chicagoland area?
Well, let everybody that you know in your sphere of influence know what you're doing. Buy properties from them. Put it out there to the world.
Good answer. All right. When you're not working 24/7, what do you do for fun?
I try to get out and golf. And during the pandemic, I bought a guitar and I've been teaching myself guitar for the past 2.5 years and really enjoy it. It's part of that mindset thing. It's the process. You got to love the process. And I said I'd give myself 5 years with that. And it's little steps and growth. And that's also what I love what I do here and coming in here and opening up a new market. It's the growth and the process. You got to love the process.
Love it. Joe, what's a good book, podcast, or self-development activity that you would recommend to our listeners?
Couple books. I mean, it's Rich Dad Poor Dad is always a good mindset one. It's also a good book for, in my opinion, parenting. It can help out there. How to Win Friends and Influence People. That helped me tremendously on being an introvert and getting out there and finding common ground with people. And then podcast, Straight Up Chicago Investors, of course.
Woo!
I just bought, they have a Rich Dad, I might get the title wrong, but it's like for teenagers. So I just bought that for he's 10, but hopefully he'll grow into it. But I also got the How to Win Friends and then The Richest Man in Babylon. So I just bought those 3 books for my son to hopefully, he says he wants to read them now, and it's great. I'm not expecting to, but he could just have them in his room for a couple of years, then read them. I'm down.
There you go.
Besides yourself, name one person in your local network that you'd highly recommend to other investors as a quality resource.
I would say our lending arm, 212 Loans. We're a construction lender, so highly recommend them. Not only it's in-house, but easy to work with.
Great.
Joe, thanks so much. You've provided a ton of value to our listeners. How can they learn more about you? Is there any way they can provide value to you?
Absolutely. If somebody's looking to work with one of our sales associates here and start receiving, off-market deals, they can reach out to me directly. If you want, I can leave my phone number or my email.
Go for it. Throw that phone number out there.
All right. I love it. 312-888-5130.
Nice.
And when I'm not fielding calls from, extending my warranty on my car, I'll take your call. They can also log on to our website, networthrealtyusa.com, submit their information there, and I'll have somebody reach out to you that way. Also further, if you are looking to, possibly a career in real estate, you can go on that website as well. And there's a careers tab there, and like nothing more to sit down with you and see if it's a good fit.
Sounds good. Mark, who do we have potentially to win $100 for our friends from Renovo?
We have 𝗵𝗃𝗃𝗀𝗁 out of Park Ridge that bought something off of the Straight Up Chicago merchant store on our website. And he is we drew his name, and he could possibly win a $100 gift card sponsored by Lenovo if I get this question right.
All right, Barron's for you here. All right, so today's guest, Joe, is from the University of Central Florida. For my little LinkedIn research here, for our listeners who don't know where that is, it's just outside of Orlando. And roughly, how many miles is it from the University of Central Florida to downtown Chicago? And Mark, I'll give you multiple choice here. Is it 900, 1,200, 1,600, 2,100?
I'm trying to figure out how long it takes to drive to Orlando. I would have said 1,200.
All right, Joe, do you want to throw a number out there?
That'd be my guess.
1,200, boys. Nice work.
Bam. Barry, yes, we haven't had a listener win in a couple episodes. So Barry, congrats. We'll send you out, we'll connect with you and send you out a $100 gift card.
See, I'll make the questions harder. I want to drag out the Lenovo sponsorship as long as possible so no one wins.
So, yeah, that was just a math one backing in. I knew from here to LA was like 2,000 or 2,200. So I had to be less than that. So, all right. Congrats, Barry. All right, Joe, thank you very much. Tom, thank you as always. Listeners, man, we haven't asked people to subscribe or smash that like button lately. So guys, please, our reviews online, especially on Apple, have not gone up lately. So I'm going to make you feel guilty about not leaving us a review. And if you left a review on there, then please go on our Facebook page, leave a review there, or feel free to go on any of the other podcast sites and leave us a 5-star review. It's our reviews that help drive additional traffic and get us higher up when people are searching. So Joe, thank you very much. Tom, thank you. And smash that like button, everybody.
Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate it.
Thanks all.